Well, apparently that's one of the very last stories we did.
Yeah, it happened about a month ago. You guys see the episode we did with the underwater car sinking in the pool? Right, so we sunk the car in the pool a bunch of times, and I experimented with different ways to get out. We kind of knew we weren't doing the full treatment to that story, because it turns out that most cars, when they go in the water, they don't just sink like this. They actually do what's called turning turtle. They go upside down, and then they sink. And a lot of times they find people wedged up into the wheel well, like they were confused about which way is up. So we thought, I've been wanting to revisit this. It's part of my secret plan to somehow live out my life as an action movie hero. And we did. About a month ago, we went out to this quarry lake in California. We set up a barge, and Jamie and I worked out the mechanics of pulling a car off the barge in such a way as that we pulled it upside down while I was in it wearing street clothes. And we set up, the upshot is everything we set in motion to keep me safe worked. We had a safety diver in the car, I had oxygen on my shoulder, we had 2 other air sources in the car, and I utilized every last one of those things. There were some things we didn't count on, which were that the car did not behave in any kind of predictable way. It actually did go upside down, and then it went right side up again, and then it went upside down again. And the previous owner of the car was a smoker, as evidenced by the 800 cigarette butts that were in the ashtray of the car, so that when the car filled up with water, it was like coffee. I couldn't see, my safety diver couldn't see, and the safety divers outside the car couldn't see in the car.
Yeah, I'm watching this whole thing from the outside, and we were obviously concerned, and we had all sorts of safety checks, but the biggest worry from the get-go was that if we knocked Adam and the safety diver out from the initial impact, that then it's going to take us a little bit to get to him, and we might not be able to see what was going on in the process. But fortunately, the car didn't go down right away, as Adam described. It sort of floated around and flipped around a little bit, and I could hear Adam chat on the way inside long enough to know that he was still alive. So
I was switching to whatever camera was above water as the car kept on lurching and narrating what was happening. The windshield was broken and water spraying up through it. My safety diver was actually bolted into his seatbelt because he's upside down and can't undo it. He had to actually cut his seatbelt with a knife. And then when the car finally went underwater, there's this tape where I'm talking to the back camera and I say, I don't have much oxygen left. And then the camera goes underwater just at the same moment that I do. At that moment, I couldn't see a thing, and I really was totally disoriented. The myth is, it was very, very surprising how quickly I couldn't figure out where I was in the car. I put my hand out, and my safety diver on a prearranged signal saw my hand and slapped the regulator into it. And unfortunately, since he was upside down, the regulator was upside down, and when you suck on an upside down regulator, you get a whole bunch of water as well. So without being able to see in this coffee-colored water in a lurching car, I took a big wet breath, and I almost panicked. That's the closest I've ever come on the show to panicking. And I stopped, and I realized what it was, and I pulled it out, turned it upside down, purged it, and then I had to wait for the car to settle and got out, and we got our shots. But honestly, of the whole show, I now know, after 8 years, where my line is. And that's it.
So have you ever done the other myths that went horribly wrong?
Yeah. I'm sure you've been in the supermarket when you're a kid, you want to buy the sugariest cereal, and your mom says the box is more nutritious than the cereal itself.
You're not going to tell him this one, are you? Really? Do you want to do this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We thought we should test it. Not on us, on some lab mice. So we had a cage control, which was mice eating regular mouse food, and a cage of some very happy mice eating Fruit Loops, and then a cage of mice eating cardboard that Jamie had molded into the shape of mouse food.
Yeah, I added a non-nutritive sweetener to it to encourage them to eat it, although we later found out that they don't seem to respond to the stuff. Nevertheless, they were chewing on it because they didn't have much choice. And, we went through a week like this, and it came to Friday. And
we're pulling the mice out every day and weighing them and logging their weight. Everything seems like it's maintained on a pretty consistent line.
Yeah. And so it's Friday, and we're going to go home for the weekend. I checked to make sure that they've got water and everything. And everybody seems fine. The cage that was full of mice that were eating the cardboard were a little jumpy, but there was, they didn't seem like they'd lost a lot of weight or anything. So I turned the lights off and went home.
By Monday morning, they had lost a lot of weight. In fact, there was no longer 3 of them, as we originally started with. One really fat one. Now, we didn't have cameras rolling the whole weekend, so we don't know how it went down.
And we should point out that, if we knew that it was going to go this way, we would have, that's the last thing we do.
But since it happened, it's funny, and we'll talk about it. It really looked like he'd eaten his 2 compatriots like corn on the cob. Like it was like head, rib cage, tail. Like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. So we nicknamed the survivor Killer. And I held him up to the camera and said, "This is what happened, kids, when mice attack."
And then I fed him to the snake.
It seemed only appropriate. We sent the segment to Discover, and they were like, "Don't ever air this episode."